All right, thanks for joining me. Why are we here today? We're here to discuss something that we've just been made aware of in the last 2 weeks, which is that been an update to the OIC, and that update pretty much makes the ownership of semi-automatic firearms illegal in Canada or prohibited, to put it in their terms. What can we do about it? What's the road going forward? Let's talk about it. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this content, but let's dive right into it. 340 new firearms. Among them, some stuff that makes no sense, like the GSG-16 and a lot of 22 LR. Some stuff that is, again, limited to 5 rounds, which ironically is much more that you can get a lot more rounds into a shotgun. But anyways, something like the Type 81, and banning a rifle based on the type of action. You're going to tell me you can, in that logic, you can do as much damage with a shotgun or a lever action firearm. Makes no sense, but let's talk about it. Let's start here. So, what is this OIC? Well, the OIC has been an update to a law or guidelines that have been put in place that basically decide what firearms are prohibited or not in Canada. And here are your options going forward. You can either, one, deactivate those firearms. Two, you have a sort of like a timeline until October 2025, a form of a grace period where you can take advantage of a buyback program that the government has put in place. A program in which it has pumped $750 million, which it's thinking it's going to cost $750 million, in which it has already put $100 million, not collecting a single firearm. And we all know that $750 million will quickly turn into $1 billion and more. That's the way it works in Canada. These programs usually go beyond their budgets. And if this buyback program comes into view the way it's going to come into view, we know that it's going to cost a lot of money for Canadian taxpayers. Is it what Canadian taxpayers need right now with a floundering healthcare system? When it needs investments in education are massive. In Quebec, actually, the needs in education are so big that we are now hiring non-qualified school teachers to teach in our schools because we just don't have school teachers. That just tells you how good the curriculum is. Infrastructure is falling apart. Among other things, the issues are far and wide ranging. It seems to me that $750 million, 750 millions, and more, like I said, it could go to $1 billion, could have been better spent. I know that you could have, at the cost of $40 million a piece, God knows how many schools you could have opened, or teachers you could have trained, or nurse practitioners, or doctors you could have trained. Things that Canada needs a lot more than another firearm ban. And again, I want to put an emphasis that there is a reason why this is being done by this federal government. With elections coming in 10 months, they want to position themselves. They're saying that a lot of these firearms will go to Ukraine to help the fight against the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Well, we know that makes no sense, because if you ever see the size of a 22 LR rifle, a 22 LR cartridge, a piece of ammo, it's about this big. And we all know that that's not what's being used on the battlefield right now. It's not what's going to hurt a rabbit that's going to make a difference on the battlefield. Another thing is that the conditions are that the firearms given to Ukraine have to be in unused condition to avoid having to put any maintenance in them. I don't know if that makes sense with any of the buyback firearms that are going to be sent to Ukraine. Actually, Ukraine is only asking for about, I think, between 26 or 32 types of firearms that they could use in the fight. But 26 to 32, we've somehow decided that justified the 340 new prohibited weapons. Now, what can we do about this? Like I said, you have a grace period until October 2025. Some people are counting on an election to help them. Some people are saying that the best thing to do is to proceed with a buyback. There is a lot of things that a lot of people are saying on the conservative sides, even on the NDP side. I'm asking you to be very aware that in Canada, your vote does count. And for all of us, you should speak with your vote, with nothing else than your vote. You can speak to your entourage about it. I know we're told not to speak about our firearms on social media and to be responsible about it, but it is probably now time to speak about the nonsense of banning a firearm based on the type of action that it uses. That's another thing that can be brought to the table. Now, another thing that we can discuss in this is the idea that Canadians need to speak, especially responsible firearm owners need to go where the media is. A lot of people are talking about it on X, on Facebook, but a lot of the media now is migrating to platforms like Blue Sky. And I strongly suggest that you go on these platforms to make your voices heard, to talk to the people that can report on it, and to say that this is nonsensical and a budgetary disaster. Now, talking about your vote, remember your vote is also important for other things, and those things are more important than firearm ownership, because in Canada, firearm ownership is not a right. We have no Second Amendment. It's a privilege. It's something that's given to us by the federal government. So if that's the contract, which is that if we agree to have a purchase and acquisition license, that we have to agree with what the federal government puts into place for us, which is going to be difficult going forward, especially if this is, as far as we say, is a semi-automatic ban. But like I said, your vote is also important for healthcare. Your vote is also important for infrastructure, education, and the economy. You have to think of these four things. These four things are more important than firearms. And I know we're here to speak about firearms, but I want people to know that in Canada, there are priorities that are important beyond our hobbies. So I encourage you to look at the programs that our political parties offer, and to vote with your consciousness, vote with your conscience, vote with your priorities. That's very important. I'm gonna add just one last thing on this, which is that I've told you guys that it's important to talk about it. It's important to vote with your conscience, and the letter campaigns over the last few years have been tremendous, and we've done a lot. But I think it's important to remember that this is really, at the end of the day, if you're going to be upset about something, about this firearm ban, and I've spoken about it on social media, how it's ridiculous that the parks, the federal parks, the department pays hunters with AR-15s to go on helicopters to shoot deer. But that's just some of the nonsense that we see going on. But just to come back to what I wanted to say, is that this is a money thing. This is a money issue beyond anything. And how we spend our taxpayer money with the issues that we have right now, $750 million to $1 billion over, can be used for better things than the extremely low, if not the lowest in the Western world, rate of crimes committed by in Canada by legal firearm owners. This is just a reminder that this is money that is not well spent. We are absolutely wasting our money here with this program, and this is the part that upsets me more than anything, is seeing billions of dollars disappear. In Quebec, we've seen it with Northvolt. We've seen our government pump billions of dollars in a battery factory that's literally declaring bankruptcy. Makes no sense. We've seen them pump money into the Bombardier C series that we sold to Airbus for a symbolic dollar. We've seen so much nonsense done with public funding that, more than anything going forward, this is what needs to be in the front of how we see governments handling our money. There has to be some sort of accountability, and that accountability is important. Firearms are a hobby for many of us. For others, hunting and subsistence is important, and we have to respect that. But if we're going to be used as the whipping boys for a campaign that, for all likeliness, the current government doesn't seem to be on the right side of the polls for whatever reason, we have to remember again that our vote counts, your vote counts, and to really speak to it when you're going to have, in all probabilities, unless there's a successful non-confidence vote, an election in the next 10 months. Speak with your vote, speak kindly to each other. Do not be upset at people who do not really understand our desire to keep these firearms. It's not, for the majority of the Canadian public, they don't want firearms out there, and you have to be respectful of what people want. But this is not about trying to go against what the Canadian public wants. This is about common sense rulings, common sense instructions, and our right to retain a privilege, which is the one of having semi-automatic firearms. Someone wrote something which I thought was very smart, which is that for some of us who are, whether you're in sporting or you're hunters, and who have some form of a handicap with our hands or with our arms, um, the banning of semi-automatic rifles in Canada is a form of exclusion, is a form of discrimination for these people. And I understand there's a lot of things to be upset about. I've read a lot of stuff out there. But the most important thing for you out there is to keep the discourse respectful. We have to be respectful. We have no Second Amendment in Canada. So keeping the discourse respectful is the most important thing right now. And hopefully there will be new rulings and new laws that allow us to preserve these firearms because they are highly functional. They're still limited to 5 rounds. That's the law here. But we don't think that Canadian firearm legal and law-abiding Canadian firearm owners should be punished for something like that. So please like and subscribe if you like this content. And I'll be seeing you out there and try to post a bit more content on what's allowed now and what we can do and how we can enjoy what we have. So again, thank you for listening and have a wonderful weekend.